Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're ignoring conventional wisdom and making our own robot boss order. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
Patrick, I'm doing great. I have a question for you.
Oh,
and
no.
It is a maybe a health question, maybe a medical question, and I know that you're not a doctor. I want to recognize that, but I feel like I can trust you, and so I left out a vitamin water. It's like a lemonade vitamin water this afternoon,
Yes.
and I forgot about it. So it's
Uh-huh.
room temperature, and I put it back in the refrigerator with the intention to drink it again. I should be fine, right? I'm not going to die.
What you had opened it, you got it out of the fridge, you opened
Yeah.
it, you took a couple sips, you closed it, then you put it in the fridge?
I would say I drank maybe like 3/4 of it. So there's a fourth of it left, and maybe maybe like
I don't think how much is left matters as
maybe
so much
like
as
half
did you
of that
open
is
it.
backwash. I don't know.
Well, but yeah, I mean it's your backwash. Although
That's
I guess
true.
your backwash will grow mold just like anyone's backwash would. I think you're probably fine. Is there anything cuz vitamin water when you buy it at the store, it's out in the open, like
Yeah, it
sitting on
could
a
be
pallet.
hot, right? They're probably shipping it hot.
They're shipping it hot. Look, this is the way they save money on things, is that they ship them hot so they weigh a little less. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna chug it. Maybe like after the show, I'll chug it, and then I'll text you a couple hours later to let you know how
Sure.
I'm feeling.
Also, Mark, if you want me to buy you a new vitamin water, I'll do that for you. If you're worried about it.
This was my roundabout way of asking for you to buy me a vitamin water.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm Venmoing you right now. How much is a vitamin water? Like $2.70? What?
It has to be at least $25 at this point.
What are we talking about? What do you mean? All right, speaking of things we don't know what we're talking about, my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. Would you like to borrow it? You certainly can try. You can get on the list to do that. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And give us a mailing address so we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. One of the things that might happen, there may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in that box that says Sonic Forces on the outside. Either way, you play it for as long as you want. I pay for shipping both ways. Postage. Shipping? It's sent through USPS. Is it shipping or is it postage? Mark, your take?
I think, and I'm thinking long and hard about this. I think you can say either one, Patrick.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to saying postage because
Well-
I've been saying that for 4 years.
But also, maybe I'm just saying that because I know I'm about to drink old vitamin water that may kill me. So, I just feel like I'm living.
Right,
I'm
what have
living
you got
free.
to lose?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on borrowed time right now anyway, so what does it matter? I pay for the cost of getting it from one place to the other, both ways. You play the game for as long as you want. You display it proudly on your shelf or your mantle place or, at work or something for as long as you want. It's a perfect borrowing program.
Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere that you get your podcast. These are great because it helps people find the show. Plus, Patrick and I love reading your reviews, seeing those 5-star reviews. If you leave us a 5-star review on the US Apple Podcast Store, we can see it, and so we'll give you a shout out on the show. If you leave us a review anywhere else or you share the show some other way, definitely still let us know. We would love to recognize that. We would love to give you a shout out. So, send us an email. You can do it while you're signing up for the Sonic Forces borrowing program or separately. It doesn't have to
Separately.
be the same
I
thing.
want separate emails. I want separate emails. If you're emailing me about the Sonic Forces borrowing program, that should be somewhere in the subject line of the email, and then don't put other information in there because I'm not going to read the other information. I'm just going to get your address and put it in the spreadsheet.
Well, as somebody who's living on the edge with nothing to lose, I'll say you can do whatever you want because I'm the cool member of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
Okay, that may be true, but I'm the one who reads the emails.
Well, however you do it, you can send us an
Yeah.
email, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know. We would love to give you a shout out.
And if you've already done that, or if you're just looking for another way to interact with us, you should get on our Discord. We're having good conversations there. Hey, we were talking about the new Bayonetta game minutes after it was revealed on Twitter. So get in there, either email us or hit us up on Twitter. We'll send you an invite, and you can talk about Nintendo stuff with a bunch of fun, cool people who are really chill and having a nice time talking about Nintendo. And about this show too. There's a fair amount of talking about, what dumb thing you or I just said. So, weigh in on the Discord. Should Mark drink that vitamin water? Yes or no? All right, Mark, let's get into it. We're ranking some Robot Masters in Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so first, Mark, why are we doing this, right? The why of it is that Mega Man: The Wily Wars recently came to the Sega Genesis Nintendo Switch Online service. It is a collection of the first 3 Mega Man games, but like redone in a 16-bit style. Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3 were originally NES games. And they're games that are near and dear to my heart, Mark, but I'd like to know, and I've probably talked about them a little bit on the show before, but I'd like to know what your experience with the Mega Man series is.
Yeah, I never played them growing up. The first I knew about Mega Man, the first time that I really tried to sit down and play a Mega Man game was when Mega Man 9 was released for the Wii, kind of like that
Yeah.
surprise indie, or it was created by Inti Creates, but it was like a throwback retro NES style new Mega Man game. And at the time, that kind of like NES retro style was really novel.
So novel. Yeah,
And
not everyone was doing it yet. Yeah.
yeah, and so to really like be faithful to that style with the music and everything, but have like a new Mega Man game, even though I wasn't, like really into the series, my friend and I bought it and we're super excited to play through it. I don't think, I know for sure I never beat it. The games were always like a little too hard for me, and that is true to this day. Honestly, the Sega Genesis might be the Wily Wars might be the best way for me to experience it, because I can rewind, which is a feature that is so
Right.
important to my experience of these kind of like Twitch platformer games.
Yeah, and like I do think that like all of these games like have a little bit too much difficulty. There is nothing quite like getting good at a Mega Man game and like knowing boss orders, knowing how to like fight the individual bosses, using just the arm cannon. Mega Man 9 was one that I got really, really deep into, as Mark, like you say, like the sort of like retro revival of like old school Mega Man. Like the series had wandered so far away from like those original aesthetics after the first 6 games, that like, I just sort of like fell out of it. But then 9 was like, we're back, and we're back to being, just like old school. So Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3, you didn't play growing up. You have not ever really played?
Yeah, not really. Maybe dabbled with a couple of times, but never. I've never beaten more
Yeah.
than 1 or 2 robot masters in each game.
So for me, Mega Man 3 was like my game. That's the one that I played the wheels off of. I owned that game as a kid. I liked it so much. One year I went for Halloween as one of the Robot Masters. I went as Shadow Man. So it was basically just me wearing a blue hoodie with like a cardboard ninja star on my forehead. I asked my mom if she had pictures of this, and she wasn't sure. So maybe we'll be sharing those. I don't know. But she's looking for it. And so like that's the Mega Man game that I know forwards and backwards, that like I know multiple different paths through the game, that I've beaten multiple times. I in the years after that, I like went back and played Mega Man's 2 and 1. And I would say 1 is of this trio is the game that I know the least. It's also kind of like the roughest. Like not everything that the series became is established in Mega Man 1. A lot of it is. But there are 6 Robot Masters instead of 8. And there's a score counter for some reason, like it's something that never comes into play like anywhere in any of these games ever. Even in Mega Man 1, like it's keeping track of your score, but it doesn't mean anything. And like the designs are sort of like ironed out by Mega Man 2. But so like the 2 and 3 are like huge formative games for me. I have strong opinions on the order in which you should tackle the bosses and all that kind of stuff. Mark, you wanted to talk a little bit about like conceptually what the robot bosses are. So you want to start us off on that?
Well, one of the things I think is really interesting about the Mega Man games is the fact that you can approach these levels and these bosses from any order. So the game starts and there are like 6 or 8 robot masters for you to attempt. The structure is you go into a level, you go through the level, and then at the end there's this robot master, and when you defeat a robot master you get a special weapon. And I don't know, that to this day feels very unique to me as like a structure for a game.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you can approach it in any order you want, but more than that, you have to, right? Like, the game does not suggest an order to you, right? Like, it's not like in a Mario game where it's like you do level 1 and then there's like a split and it's like, oh, you can go to the desert or you can go to the forest. You like actively have to choose every single step along the way what order you tackle these things, and then there's a Wily Castle at the end of it, which is a sort of proving yourself against everything now that you have all the tools. But it's very like it's cool in that way because it means that you genuinely feel like the longer you're playing it, the more progress you make. The more powerful you are genuinely becoming, because it's not like the levels scale up to get harder as you play them, right? So like by the time you play the 8th level in Mega Man 2, or your 8th level, which will be different for everyone, right? You will be at your strongest, and the level doesn't like raise up to meet you there. You're just more powerful. So it's a really cool, like fun sort of power fantasy to be like plowing through these levels with all these extra weapons and having more options on how to take down the and regular enemies as you encounter them, and the robot bosses as you get to them at the end of the levels.
And then I also do think we should talk about and you're gonna have to kind of fill me in here, Patrick. What the robot masters are in the world of Mega Man?
Yeah, so they are the original 6 robot masters. I'm gonna see if I can just name them off the top of my head. Elecman, Gutsman, Iceman, Elecman, Fireman, and the other one, Bombman.
I think you said Elecman twice. Did you say Cutman?
Yeah, I started with Cutman, Gutman, Gutsman, Elecman, Fireman, Iceman, and Bombman.
Cool.
I did them all. An Elecman and a Leckman. So yeah, they are like within the fiction of the story. They were also created by the good Doctor White, Doctor Light, Dr. Wright, the good guy doctor, as like in the same batch as Mega Man. So like they're robots that like got hijacked by Dr. Wily and became bad robots. Yeah, Mark?
Oh, Dr. Light.
Dr. Light, thank you. I know in one of the games there's like a typo on his name, and so he appears to have a different name in one of the games. And so they're like robots that, like Mega Man, were built with the purpose of like helping humanity. But it turns out, they were hijacked and became evil. But then in the subsequent games, they just are evil robots, like built for being evil, and for fighting Mega Man. And it's cool in Mega Man 3 that there's also this character Proto Man, who is another robot created by Dr. Light, who also turns evil, but is sort of like Mega Man's brother, and just sort of like drops in at various points, like as a mid boss in some of the levels. There's one level in Gemini Man's stage, he just appears, opens a gate, and then disappears. And so like it's all very mysterious. You end up like having to have like a knockdown, like drag out brawl with him at one point. I don't know. It's just a really like cool little bit of storytelling to have this like singular character like out to get you, and he's got this really cool like whistle theme. This Proto Man music is like legendarily good. It's some of the best music in the Mega Man series. But we're not talking about him today. He's not one of the robot masters that we're talking about.
So how do we want to approach this? Should we run through all of the robot masters we'll be talking about today?
I think that makes sense. Yes. So we have a total of 22 robot masters, and we're gonna figure out how to rank these bad boys. Mark, if you'd like to let's go back and forth, just like introducing them, and we can talk about like what they look like and what they are.
Okay. So up first from Mega Man 1 is Guts Man.
Yeah, Guts Man. His deal is that like he's strong, right? Like he's a big dude. He's got like a big dumb underbite. Looks hilarious. Is posing with a rock all the time because like that's what his ability is. The ability that he gives you is to like interact with the environment, picking up big rocks and like throwing them at other bad guys.
I feel like Guts Man. I'm trying to think of like an alternative for what like Muscle Man. I like my initial thought is Gut is no good, but also I don't know that I can come up with something better.
Yeah, it's certainly a strange choice where it's like why call him Guts Man, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
and
same.
I wonder how much of it was based on like character constraints, because all of them are a 4-letter word at most, and then man, and that changes as we get into later games. But like I wonder if they wanted it to be like Strength Man or like you say Muscle Man, and then when it got down to it was just like, yeah, I don't know, it's we can't call Elec Man Electricity Man, we have to call him Elec Man, and that's it. Guts fit and nothing else would. Next up, we got Iceman, and I gotta say the design on Iceman is absolutely killer. He's wearing like he's all blue, he's all blue and white, and he's basically wearing a parka with like a fur-lined hood that he pulls up over his face like he's an ice climber.
And we will probably get into this when we get into the actual rankings, but I think I like the sprite designs of some of these characters more than I like these kind of like anime illustrations that we're pulling from the wiki. I feel like sometimes the sprites have a lot more personality than that gets edged down a little bit.
I do think that is generally true. But I think the designs of all these characters are so like simple and great that like I think they translate pretty well to 8-bit. Like I don't think that they lose too much, and I don't think they like gain. Like I think that there's a lot of parity between the anime designs and the 8-bit designs, but I'll be interested to see where you think the disparity is.
Up next is Bomb Man, which kind of looks like a Iron Man, like chunky Iron Man that throws bombs.
And he's got like a little mohawk. And like when we say he throws bombs, like picture a cartoon bomb. Is it a big black orb with a fuse on it? Because that's exactly what he's throwing around.
Yeah.
Next up is Fireman. And now this is not, you might think that's someone who puts out fires, right? Like wears a red hat and like carries an axe and climbs ladders. No, it is not. He's got fire coming out the top of his head and like both arm cannons.
Yeah, the arm cannons are a little bit like Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast.
Totally. He is 100% a candelabra. You're right. There's also like he looks like he's probably like it's a gas powered flame on top of his head, right?
Yeah.
Like that there's like a pilot light still when he like turns the rest of it off. There's like still a little bit happening.
Up next is Elec Man, which is electricity powered. I gotta say, in the first, there are a few that their costumes between games where like their outfits look very similar, and this is one where Leckman and Quickman from Mega Man 2 have
Yeah, pretty similar.
very similar aesthetics. It's again kind of like a superhero villain
Yes.
jumpsuit type thing going on with a big electricity mask.
Well, and like the electricity mask that has like the little lightning bolt down the middle, like he looks like old school Electro, right?
Yes.
From Spider-Man. Yeah, like not the Jamie Foxx Electro, but like from the old Spider-Man cartoons or comics. Electman is very funny in design to me. And I also like that he doesn't. It's unclear how he's channeling electricity. He just like does it.
Yeah.
We'll get to characters later on where you're like, oh, those are clearly like electric spikes. Like he's just doing it with his fingers, like he's Thor or something. And then the last robot boss in the original Mega Man is Cutman. This is a little orange dude who's got scissors on his head.
And this is one where, well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Okay.
So on to Mega Man 2, and first up is Metal Man. He has kind of like these like buzzsaw blades that he is shooting out. Again, a lot of like orange and yellow and red are like really strong. They're used a lot for the colors of these characters.
Yeah, and Metal Man's got like when we'll see this like this sort of aesthetic repeated, but he's got like a mask over his face, which almost makes him look like a ninja, which I gotta say adds to the appeal. It makes me like him more. Next up is Windman. Windman is hilarious because they just take like his whole like head and body is like a single piece, and instead of having like a mouth or a neck or a torso, it's just a giant fan.
Yeah, I love that.
He's
Also,
very good.
Windman, also sometimes known as Airman. Up next.
Oh yeah,
is,
my bad. It's Airman. I misspoke.
Up next is Woodman, who is like a tree stump with arms and legs, an angry
Yes.
tree stump with arms and legs that throws vicious leaves at you.
Yeah, well, and protects himself with a shield of leaves, as well. Next up is Heat Man, and Heat Man is a lighter with arms and legs. He's like a gold Zippo lighter engulfed in flames, and has arms and legs.
Up next, and it is fire based. Up next
Yeah.
is Flashman, who breaks that kind of like orange and red and yellow streak with having blue and yellow. I like his getup. He has like a one arm cannon. He does this kind of like hand motion with all of his moves. I'm not even really sure what Flashman's like power is. Is it just
Let me tell
speed?
you. No, so it is not speed. It's sort of the opposite. His flash move makes everything else freeze in place. So like with this sort of like arm motion that he's doing, he's like stopping time basically.
Got it.
But yeah, otherwise like he has a very kind of like he doesn't look like a lot of stuff. Like he looks like Mega Man basically, but maybe with a little bit more of like a Voltron kind of aesthetic to him. He just feels very simple in design to me. Next up is Crash Man. Crash Man drills for arms, but these drills are also explosives. It's never really been clear to me. Like he's a mining robot, clearly, but like he shoots missiles at you that are also drills that when they embed themselves in you, they blow up. So like triple threat there. And again, back to the sort of like orange and brown aesthetic that we were stuck in before.
Crashman, I feel like you could do a whole Edward Scissorhands type spinoff for.
Yes.
Because I don't know how he's living his life.
Yeah, I
with
mean
those drills for hands.
I mean, he just mines all day long. That's what he does.
Up next is Quickman, who has these big kind of like Loki-esque horns that are coming off of his helmet, and he must be fast. Quickman's thing must be
There
that
you
he's
go.
fast.
Yes, he's fast. The like horn shape on his head is reminiscent of the boomerangs that he throws. He's one of the more erratic like bosses when you fight him, where it's like, a lot of these guys have specific patterns that they do just like kind of over and over again. And Quickman is one where it's like he's got AI that's like trickier to follow, and like the cues, like what you do versus what he does, aren't as obvious. And so if you don't have the right weapons to go into him, he can really be a difficult fight. Like it can be very tricky to go in with just the regular old arm cannon. And then next up is Bubble Man. And Bubble Man's great. He's an underwater character. You only fight him underwater. He's wearing like, green flippers and like a scuba mask. He's very cool. I like Bubble Man a lot.
We're on to Mega Man 3 with Magnet Man. This is kind of back to that traditional Mega Man Robot Masters look of orange and brown, but he has a big magnet on his mask, like a U.
Again, picture a cartoon magnet.
Uh-huh.
And that's what it is.
And those are his weapons as well. He's tossing those around. So that's Magnet Man delivers what's on the tin.
And the magnet missile, the weapon that you pick up from him, is very cool because it fires in a straight line, and then if there's an enemy above or below it, like as it's flying, it just turns 90 degrees and like then goes after whatever it's targeting. A very helpful thing in a game where you can't aim up at all. Next up is Needleman. Sort of the same design aesthetic basically as Airman, right? Except without a fan in the middle of his body, but like his body and head are like one sort of like cone coming down together. He's also blue like Airman, but he's got spikes on top of his head, presumably needles. And his needle cannon is like a rapid fire spike shooter.
I've got to say, by Mega Man 3, it feels like they're really in the groove of like the designs for these Robot Masters.
They hit really hard in Mega Man 3, yeah.
Shadow Man is next. This is what Patrick dressed up for as Halloween as a kid.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, he's cool. He's blue and white, has an enormous throwing star as like actually, I think that's
some creative liberty. Yeah,
yeah. In the illustration, he has this like enormous throwing star, but looking at it closely, it's like him getting ready to toss it. But on his head, like his like supervillain mask type thing, above his forehead is a throwing star, kind of embedded in the mask.
And I mean, I'm not just saying this because it was how I achieved the look as a Halloween costume, but it looks like he's wearing like a hood, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Like the blue thing on top of his head is very hood-like. Shadow Man, another one, just very cool. Those shurikens, the like throwing stars that he throws, come back to him. It's a very versatile, good weapon. Next up is Spark Man. This is another electricity-based character. A little bit like stockier, a little bit wider than the rest of the bosses. He's like orange and white, and instead of having like hands, he's got these like giant spikes that seem to be like conducting electricity. And there's something very cool about the fact that he has to like touch them together to like summon the electricity.
Yeah, when he puts them together and they spark, it is very cool.
Very cool.
Up next is Snake Man, who in the illustration, I'm gonna tip my hand, is much cooler than he is in the game. In the illustration, he's kind of like crouched down, and you can see he is wearing this hood that is kind of like the head of a snake, and his face is in the mouth, and then it flows back to create a tail behind him. And when he's in this prone position, it looks like he's going to crawl like a snake. In the game, he does not.
He doesn't do that. He jumps around in the game. But his weapon it's called Search Snake. And the snakes that like shoot out either when he uses it or when you use it as Mega Man, the snakes hit the ground right away, right? So if you're trying to hit something that's like too low for Mega Man to shoot normally, they'll get it then, but they just like go forward until they like when they hit a wall, they go up the wall, or like they go around obstacles and stuff, which makes them very useful and versatile. Next up is Top Man, and Top Man is orange. His head is a top, and his feet are roller skates. Mark? Marcus feet are roller skates.
From Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express.
Starlight Express.
It's Top Man. Yeah, Top Man makes me laugh really hard.
Top Man rules.
Yep. Top Man, we will be coming back to you. Up next is Hard Man, who is kind of like your typical cartoon heavy, I would say, in some armor. But he has rocket hands, I think.
Yeah, I mean he is confusing because his body is shaped like a barrel, but it's blue, and yeah, he just like shoots fists at you. And then next up, and finally, we've got Gemini Man, who is like white. He has like crystalline sort of like body armor, and a helmet that is like got a couple spikes on it that look like it's made of like glass or some sort of crystal. Like I said, the thing that happens with Gemini Man is he splits himself into two and becomes two Gemini Mans that you have to fight at the same time.
Yeah, for as comically lame as Top Man is, Gemini Man is like cool, so cool.
Yeah, well, yes, Gemini Man is cool. The fight against him is boring, and either you have the search snake to defeat him, or you don't, and it's very difficult to do. So, Mark, I don't know. I think we need to start like figuring out how we feel on like a base level. Getting like sorting these things into tiers and figuring out which are the good robot bosses, which are the medium robot bosses, and which are the bad robot bosses. So you want to do a little ABC on this?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm excited to have you kind of guide us as far as what the mechanics of the bosses, because like, saying Gemini Man that the fight itself is not very good. That's great to know because might rank high on aesthetics, but might be, like tier wise might be pulled down depending on how fun it is to actually play.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think I am also going to be, I'm going to be biased towards the bosses that I do first in my runs, because it means that I have fought them the most. Just because I don't always finish a Mega Man game when I turn it on to play it for a little while, but like Top Man, Metal Man, Cut Man, those are among my favorites because they're the first bosses that I go after in each of those games. But I guess let's just start at Mega Man 1, and let's go in the reverse order of how we approach them the first time through. I want to put Cut Man in the A tier. For me, they don't get cleaner, they don't get cuter than Cut Man.
I am glad that we're starting off in agreement. I also love Cut Man. This is one where I personally think that the in-game look of Cut Man is more fun. I think it has more of a luchador aesthetic that kind of gets lost in the anime version, but I like that a lot, and I like that it is this big dumb like scissors essentially on his head that he just takes off and like throws
throws it at you. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Cut Man is okay by my book.
It's also very funny. Like each of these games has a boomerang character, right? Like Quick Man and Shadow Man all have boomerangs, and they all have like the thing on their forehead that represents what they throw, but it's only Cut Man who actually throws it, right? Like Quick Man throws a different boomerang, but not the boomerang on his head. Shadow Man throws a shuriken, but not the shuriken on his head. Cut Man, he grabs those scissors right off there and hucks them around. It's great.
Another one I really like that I would put in the A tier, probably A tier, is Iceman, I think.
Yes. So speak on it.
Well, again, this is another one that for me personally, I think that the anime illustration of Iceman is a little too close to like Ice Climbers, but in the game looks like a sidekick that would be hanging out with Mr. Freeze in the Batman and Robin movie, and totally. I love that so much.
I mean, Iceman, there's like a camp factor to Iceman, right? Where you're like, what is this little guy doing? They're all the same size with the exception of Gutsman, who is bigger, but he feels smaller, right? And I honestly, I don't think that the similarity to Ice Climbers works against him at all. Like I think to me that is a benefit.
It's like Evil Ice Climber.
Yeah, that's right. And why don't we have evil ice climbers yet?
So
Yeah, but then I think the rest of the robot bosses in Mega Man 1 are not in that A tier.
yeah, I agree. I feel like they're too similar in aesthetics. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's all kind of the orange, brown, yellow that we were talking about earlier. And I think that their like move set or their power is too obvious a little bit. It's not weird enough for me yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a. I will make a case for Gutsman's. Oh boy, Gutsman's move set being weird enough because it like the way it allows you to like interact with the um environment, it does so in a way that like the rest of the weapons really don't. Like you can blow up some blocks with Bomb Man's bomb move. And there are like a couple other things here and there, but the fact that you're like picking up boulders is so funny, and like just to see Mega Man like hold his little hand up because he's got a giant boulder in his hand is very funny. I still kind of fear that he and Bomb Man belong in like the C tier.
I will also say some kind words about Elecman. When
Yeah.
I saw him, so I watched some videos of all of these robot bosses, like the boss fights. And when I first saw Elecman, I thought his costume was awesome because it's
Yeah.
the first one, like in the series that you see that really has this kind of Power Ranger villain type vibe going for him. And also I really love his move when he's throwing the electricity at you. Just the pose that he strikes is very good.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he's got a flair for the dramatic, for sure. I think that he's probably my favorite of the four that remain here. I think what I Mark, here's what I propose. I propose we put Elecman and Fireman in the B tier, and then Bomb and Gutsman in the C tier. And if I need to stage a defense for Fireman, I will.
I think at the moment I'm okay putting him in there. Yeah, I'm okay with putting him in there for now.
All right, all right, great. There, actually, I do just want to speak a little bit about the. I don't know what it is, like in front of Fireman's mouth, but there's just like a little metal thing. It's not like a full mask, but there is like something there that just covers the bottom of his face and sort of like dehumanizes him just enough that like I don't know, he feels like he's doing evil against his will, or like he's being like kept from like speaking his mind or something. There is something deeper happening with Fireman.
Well, and when in the game, my first thought was like that he's like a knight. To me, he has this kind of like knight, like medieval knight with armor aesthetic, with just like a torch of flame on his head.
Yeah, so maybe there even is something like holy warrior like about him, right? That he's like some like monk of the crusades, like forced to do battle for his god.
I love it.
I just think he's cool. And then Bomb Man, I mean, first of all, the cartoon Bomb is a little like, all right. And the Mohawk, I can't deal with the Mohawk. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I just feel like we see Bomb Man in some of these other Robot Masters and done way better.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. All right, so let's move on to Mega Man 2. Who do you like the look of in Mega Man 2, Mark?
Okay, so I kind of really like Flashman. I like quite a bit. And Flashman has a more it's kind of like difficult to describe. I feel like Flashman looks more human than a lot
Yes.
of the other
Yeah.
Robot Masters. Like he just looks like a dude in armor and less like, he's not like Airman where he was clearly just created as this fan beast type thing going on. Like Flashman, you could see at the grocery store and you wouldn't really blink twice. Not saying
Yeah.
that Airman shouldn't go to the grocery store. I think he should. I'm just
That's
saying,
right.
He's going to get some stares and that's just his lot in life.
Yeah, I mean but like by that token, it makes me feel like Flashman is among the least of these characters because he's not odd at all. Like there I agree with you. There's a grace to him. There's like a almost a nobility to him.
I guess what I'm responding to is it's almost this like '90s X-Men energy that is coming
Mm.
from Flashman that I think
Yeah,
maybe
the
that's
yellow
what
and the
I'm
blue.
responding
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
But like in a Cyclops kind of way. Right? Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
responding to him in a very Scott Summers kind of way. And I get it. I'm attracted to him too. That doesn't mean that he's a better designed robot boss than the rest of them.
Fine. No, you're right. I mean, sure. Will we put an asterisk by it because I have a crush on Flashman? Yes, maybe. But you're right. In all fairness, it's like I can see past that, and it probably C tier for Flashman, right?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe B tier. I
Okay.
don't think I don't think C tier. C tier is too low.
You think I'm overcompensating now?
I think you are. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked that you came out with C tier.
I'm
That's wild to me.
What can I say? I'm negging Flashman.
I didn't think I was being so persuasive when I made fun of the fact that we're both attracted to him. All right. Let's talk about Heat Man. Because what's happening there is so bizarre. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if it's so crazy that I like it or so crazy that I hate it.
I lean towards liking it. I lean towards liking the fact that it's like a Zippo lighter with arms, kind of like Hulkbuster, but the middle portion replaced with like I guess it's not even really a Zippo lighter. It's like a flip top lighter.
Yeah, like an old fashioned lighter. There's also something funny about that. Like it seems like Heat Man may be like smaller and he's inside the lighter, right? Like it looks like he's wearing clothes that are too big for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he kind of looks like a baby who is inside
Yes.
a giant lighter
Yes.
/ like baby carriage who's throwing a tantrum, and that tantrum causes all this like fire and flame.
Right. So this is like baby Carrie, right? Maybe we don't know.
Right, yeah. Yes.
Controlling fire from inside a giant lighter.
I will say one negative for me is I just find these fire abilities kind of really boring. It just feels
Yeah.
so like such a gimme.
Right. Like, yes. I mean, totally. Anything that's based on like these sort of base elements, wind, water, fire, and earth. I guess they don't really do earth one a little bit. But that feels like a little bit on the like, didn't we already do this? Didn't we already have Fireman?
Yeah.
Even still, I think Heat Man goes in the B tier.
I think so too, because honestly, I think I like He-Man more than I like Fireman.
Yes, even though Fireman does have that cool backstory we just made up about being some kind of like holy warrior for his god, and he doesn't really want to do it, but he does because he knows his duty. All right, Heat Man is now in the B tier. Any other easy placements for you? Actually, Mark, I gotta go to bat for my boy, Bubble Man. What a weirdo. He lives underwater. Is he a frog? What's going on? He lives underwater so much. Why would he need like a snorkel mask? Like, why would he need that? Why would he need flippers? Like, why isn't he just built to like exist underwater? I love him. I think he's A tier.
Yeah, I love Bubble Man. I just want to protect Bubble Man. He seems,
Yes.
just like he needs friends. He needs people to, tell him that it's going to be okay. And I could be that
Yeah.
for Bubble Man.
And then can I also make a case for Metal Man?
Yeah, please.
So Metal Man, has like horns on the side of his head and has a giant like a metal, like a saw blade stuck in the middle of his forehead. He's got the sort of very like ninja aesthetic of the face mask over the bottom half of his face. He's red and yellow. The reason I like Metal Man so much is he's a chump to take down with the arm cannon because it's very like All you gotta do is stand it. All he does is jump vertically and throw blades at you. He will never move like left and right across the screen. So it's just a matter of like shooting at him and jumping out of the way of blades that he throws at you. It's not tough to do. And then you get the metal blade, which allows you to throw straight up or at 90 or 45-degree angles, right? So his weapon becomes an incredibly useful tool for Mega Man throughout the rest of the game in a way that the rest of the weapons, like you kind of just use them on the robot bosses. You can use the metal blade anytime you want and it's useful. So yes, in some ways I'm pulling from Metal Man because the metal blade is so useful, but I also think he's got a very like cool classic ninja aesthetic. So I think he goes A tier.
Ooh,
For me.
I don't think that his design is like unique enough for my taste to be like A tier. I will say one thing I'd like about Metal Man, and this is not true of well, actually, I'm gonna say I like it, but I haven't played it, is in his boss stage, there's like a treadmill on the bottom that is either
Yes.
moving left or right. So kind of it prevents you really from traveling towards him, but or you are just going towards him way faster than you would want to. But saying that, I'm curious, Patrick, if you have any memory of playing it, and if that is they do that because otherwise the fight would be so easy / boring. Because in the videos I was watching, most people would just like stand not on the treadmill and just
Right.
shoot him with the arm cannon. So
Right, that's what you do.
yeah, so
That's what you do. You just don't go on the treadmill.
so maybe it's compensating for not super great design. For me, it's B tier, but I don't feel that strongly about it at this point.
We can put him B tier. I'm comfortable with that, but I just know that when we are ordering the B tier, I'm gonna fight for him.
Okay, I'll prepare myself for that. What do you want to do with Crashman and Quickman? These are easy C's for me.
Yeah, I mean there is I described earlier how Quickman as like a boss character is the most like unpredictable and is like a genuine gameplay challenge, sort of regardless of how well you're equipped to go in to fight him, with the exception of if you have Flashman and you can stop time. Evidently, Quickman hates having his time stopped so much that just kills him outright, which is very funny that if you stop the quick character, he's like, I don't know what to do, and he just blows up. But other than that, I think he represents a very cool challenge in the game. But I will agree that his look is very plain. And then ditto Crashman, and the Crashman weapon, well, it does allow you to like blow open a couple like walls to access like items and stuff. Is not super great.
No coincidence, I think, so far that our C tier, everybody in the C tier is all wearing that kind of like orange, red, brown armor.
Yeah. We're not digging that. All right, so the two robot bosses that we have left for Mega Man 2 are Airman and Woodman. Mark, Woodman defends himself with razor leafs. He's an easy A for me.
I would say for me, probably both are in the A tier. I just love little Airman and his fan for a mouth. Again, I find it cute. I find Airman cute.
Yeah, well, and they're also just so like they're so impractical as robots, right? Like, why would a fan need to be a robot? And then the other one is like he's a tree. I don't understand.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Is he a wooden robot? Like is it
so.
metal that is
molded to look like wood?
made to look like wood? But think of like the care and the craft that had to go into that.
Right. Well, so he must actually be wood because he's weak to Heat Man's weapon. So, if he were a regular metal robot, maybe it's just like wood on the outside, Like they peeled off some bark and they put that on. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But they are both like a little bit chunkier, a little bit more awkward, and I think you and I are just suckers for that. I think they're good.
They're
cute.
They're
A tier.
They're like the puppies of Mega Man Robot Masters.
Yeah, I'll agree with that analysis. All right, we're putting them over in the A tier right now. They're joining their friends, Bubble Man, Iceman, and Cutman in the A tier.
Okay, so moving on to Mega Man 3. This one, there
I
are a
feel like
lot of.
we're gonna be at odds here. I think.
Oh yeah, I feel like there's a lot of good ones in Mega Man 3. So let's start with probably my least favorite, and that would be Hard Man.
Yeah, Hardman, C tier for sure. Maybe even a D tier. Like I'm not sure what. I'm not even sure what is it like. What Mark? We took improv for many years. What's the game of Hardman? I don't get it.
Yeah, he's like tough, but I presumably so is Gutsman. Presumably all of them are. Yeah, I just don't get Hard Man.
I don't get it. I don't. I just don't get it.
Yeah, so I agree. D tier.
Wow, wow. We're establishing a new crappy tier for this character.
Can I tell you one that I love?
Yes,
is
please.
Top Man.
Yes.
I
Because of the
feel
roller
like
skates?
I feel like Top Man is gay representation in Robot
Yes.
Masters,
Yes.
and I think Top Man and I would be friends.
I think you are correct. Top Man is one of the first bosses that I go after. He is the first robot boss that I go after in Mega Man 3. He's easy enough to like learn his attack patterns, and then when you beat him, you gain the ability to like twirl around in the air, and like that's an attack, which is so funny because it's so hard to use because you're always gonna get hit when you use it because you're just like hurtling your body at enemies and spinning around. Like you take the hit too.
Top Man, I feel like you would see roller skating at the boardwalk at Venice Beach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. He's just wearing a Speedo.
And like people have to jump out of the way because, he's roller skating backwards. He's not paying attention to anybody except himself. He's just living his life.
Yeah. And his best life. Like, let's not kid ourselves. He's living his best life. I want to address Shadow Man here. My father did just email me pictures of myself dressed as Shadow Man in 1991, which means that that's the year Mega Man 3 came out in like September, I think, of 1990. So this is not the immediate like that Halloween, but the next Halloween I was dressed as Shadow Man. We'll share these on the Discord, maybe even on Twitter. It's an okay costume. But I think this guy goes in either the C or the B tier. I liked him as a kid, but I think I was just responding to like ninja stuff. And I don't think that the design actually holds up that well.
I think especially so the majority of these robot masters have big shoes. I don't really know how to describe it. They're just like big clonking feet.
I mean, some of that is just in how they're posed, right? Like,
sure, yeah, putting their feet forward. But I feel like Shadow Man, when you see him, does have like a ninja thing going. But then the closer you look, with like the hood and on his feet, he has these little like white bulbs type things on like the blue.
Mm-hmm.
It tips into Jester, I think, a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think he should go?
Oh yeah, C is fine with me.
C for Shadow Man.
I'm gonna say Snake Man is also a C, maybe a D, only because the potential is so huge and the delivery is so disappointing.
Oh my man, Mark, I feel kind of how dare you on this one. I love Snake Man.
He should be crawling around on all fours. He doesn't do any of that. He's just running around with like a bridal veil flowing behind him. It's no good.
Here's the thing. Mark, here's the thing. His whole level is based on snake stuff, right? You fight two different like snake mid bosses throughout the course of this. The whole thing is like green and kind of like slimy and squirming. It's just such a swing for a Mega Man boss. And man, I mean, I guess if it doesn't work for you, then let's put him at C. Dear God, let's not put him in the D tier.
Well, what about What about B tier? What about B?
I mean, don't put him there just because I feel bad, right? Like if you genuinely think B tier, then you can do that, but it sounds to me like we're probably averaging to the C tier.
I'm gonna put him kind of like in between B and C. We'll figure out.
Mm,
We'll figure out exactly where
that's
Snake
just a
Man goes.
it's just a choice deferred, Mark. We'll have to hash it out at some point here.
So, of the remaining four, Magnet Man, Needle Man, Spark Man, and Gemini Man, I aesthetically like Needle Man and Gemini Man and Spark Man the most. I guess really what I'm saying is like Magnet Man kind of reminds me of like a Darkwing Duck villain a little bit.
Ooh, sure. Yeah.
And it's not like a
They're
it's not
kind
a
of all Darkwing Duck.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel like the one is like Top Man kind of reminds me of like a C tier villain in the Flash, but
Mm-hmm.
any of them would do in a pinch. So I guess kind of what I want to say is Magnet Man and Spark Man in B tier, Needle Man and Gemini Man in A tier for me.
So I can't put the Gemini Man in A tier. I just can't do it. He's just such a crummy like robot boss. And then the move that you get from him is called the Gemini Beam, and it's like just a like thick long beam that like bounces off the walls, and it's just so weird and hard to use effectively, that like I agree with you that he looks cool, but I feel like what's good about him stops there.
So if it were up to you, where would you put Gemini Man?
I would put Gemini Man in the C tier. I would put Magnet Man in the A tier. Partially because he's got a big dumb magnet on his forehead.
He does. I mean, that's pretty good. You won't get much pushback from me in putting Magnet Man in the A tier. I feel like Gemini Man and Snake Man are going to hold hands here in the between B and C tier, at least for a little bit.
Okay, all right. And then that leaves us with Needle Man and Spark Man. Needle Man, I feel like he's bringing the same energy that we like of Airman, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think Needle Man goes in the A tier.
Sparkman, the thing I like about Sparkman again is just like the motion he makes where he clangs the two kind of like metal rods together, and that's what generates the electricity. That's a cool move. It's something like a wrestler would do.
Yeah, well, and then like he pulls his like arm spikes apart, and there's like electricity dancing between them above his head. Like that's very cool, and it makes it feel like he's got more like ritual around his powers than anyone else.
Yeah. So
where do you think he goes? Yeah.
I feel like it may not end up being a high A, but I feel comfortable putting him in the A tier.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Okay, so let's review the sort of bottom tier that we have here. So Hardman sits all alone in in the D tier. I think it's pretty safe to say we like him the least. He's the 22nd of 22, and that's just the way of it.
In the C tier, we have Crash Man, Quick Man, Shadow Man, Bomb Man, and Guts Man.
Okay, so for my money, or do you want to let's also talk about the B tier, or should we try to put these guys in order first?
Yeah, let's put these in order.
Okay. So I think my next least favorite here has got to be Bomb Man.
I think you're right. It just suffers from like first game itis a little bit.
Yes.
Where it's just kind of obvious.
And then by that token, I think Crash Man for me is next. Edward Scissorhands of it all notwithstanding, like, maybe I'm just not a fan of the explosive characters, because Bomb Man and Crash Man, to me, both read as pretty weak.
And I know, we have Guts Man in here, and I think C is the right place for it. But the more I look at Guts Man, the more affinity I have. Like, he has a lot of personality in the design, and maybe it's just that big underbite, like bulldog jaw going on that does a lot of the heavy lifting. Uh,
Well, and
but
I think there's something also in like the 8-bit sprite too. Like the rest of them in Mega Man 1, they all occupy the same space as Mega Man, right? Like it in a lot of ways it looks like they took the Mega Man sprite and just like altered it to look like these other robot bosses. But Guts Man physically takes up more space. He is a bigger, chunkier boy.
yeah, Gutsman kind of has like a Roy thing going for him, also in his move
Oh
set
no.
because,
Yeah.
when he jumps up into the air and when he crashes down to the ground, it's very Roy in Super Mario Brothers 3, where
Mhm.
the entire level shakes, and I think Mega Man can't move for a few seconds. So maybe I like Gutsman quite a bit.
Well, I think what that means we're putting him at the top of the C tier. That means we got a slot in Quick Man and Shadow Man. Which of these characters do you like more? Both Boomerang characters.
I still think I like Shadow Man more than I like Quick Man.
Okay. That
I feel like especially in the game when you see Quick Man show up, you're like, haven't we? We've seen this guy before, right? He just looks. Yes, he has the big like boomerang eyebrow mask thing going on, but it's not enough for me.
Yeah, and like I do appreciate how much like Quickman they do such a good job in that game of like making that entire experience about speed and about how like time is your enemy in the game because like you got to slip through these giant beam things. Mark, I don't know if you watch any gameplay of the level, but like it really tests your ability to like get through parts of it fast. And then the music is so bizarre because there is a repeating pattern that's based on like 7/8 time that plays under regular like slower 4/4 time. So like there are two different rhythms kind of jiving against each other, and so it has this like very like frenetic kind of the music in Quickman stage does something special, but not enough I don't think to rescue the a pretty boring design for Quickman.
So that leaves us with Snake Man and Gemini Man, which we left hanging between C and B tier.
Boy, we sure did. And Gemini Man is weak to the Search Snake, so if these two were to get into a fight, Snake Man would win. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think I've talked myself into liking Guts Man more than either of these, but I don't know how you feel about that, Patrick.
Uh, yeah, I'll back that play. So Gutsman getting promoted, and then I don't know how do you feel about the order that Snake and Gemini Man should fall?
So, well, let me ask you this: do you like Snake Man more than Shadow Man?
Yes,
Do you like Snake Man more than Quick Man?
yes, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
and so how about Gemini Man against Shadow Man?
Who I think I like Shadow Man more than Gemini Man.
And what about Gemini Man against Quick Man?
I think I like Gemini Man more than Quick Man.
Okay, so I feel pretty good about this. So how we have Guts Man at the top of this like C tier, and then followed by Snake Man, followed by Shadow Man, and then Gemini Man sliding in here between Quick Man and Shadow Man.
Yeah, that makes sense to me for the bottom like third of our list. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them already placed. Let's work out the or should we do them from the bottom so far?
Sure, yeah. Let's kind of figure out this B tier.
Okay, yeah, yeah. We'll do the B tier, which has now shrunk considerably. We only have Fireman, Heatman, Electman, Flashman, and Metal Man. And as I'm looking at them, I feel like Metal Man's probably at the bottom of this.
I think probably too because so in this B tier we have Metal Man and Elect Man. I feel like are very similar designs. The difference
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like Metal Man has the buzz saw on his mask, and Elect Man has like lightning bolt and a little bit of like a yellow. I don't even really know how to describe it. Almost like an M. And I think just like aesthetically, I like Elect Man better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if we're just ranking those two against each other, that Metal Man and then Elect Man above that, um, and
But
then yeah, go ahead.
I think Flashman might be at the bottom here.
Okay, tell me why.
I think, like I talked about in the beginning when we were talking about Flashman that I liked how he was different, that he was more more of a human than some of these other characters, and the fact that he was different, that made him more interesting. But the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, he just, more than the vast
He just
majority
looks
of
like a
these,
dude. Yeah,
yeah, he just looks like Mega Man in an alternate costume.
yeah. That's my read on him too. Um, we can put him at the bottom. I mean, that's if we go, we can start a separate column here, Mark, instead of like piling them all the way up in one. Um, we're using a new platform for doing rankings remotely. It's working out really well so far. Okay, so a Flashman at the bottom there, and then I think Metal Man.
Okay.
Uh, and then Elect Man, unless you think you like Elect Man better than either of these fire guys.
I don't think so. And for me, so we have Fireman and Heatman at
Yep.
left here in the B tier, and Fireman, we have this headcanon for him that he's some sort of
Some sort of holy warrior. Yep.
holy warrior, Lumiere type mashup. Maybe that should be our cosplay at D23. And
Yeah, there
then
we go.
Heatman.
I'm picturing Paul Bettany's character from the Da Vinci Code. That's what I'm picturing. It's that plus Lumiere equals Fireman.
And then Heatman is, this big baby in his fire stroller. And
That's right.
for me, I think for me, I think that this big cigarette lighter type thing is really funny. And so I personally like that better than Fireman, but it's so close. Like, I really could go either way.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there is a possibility that Heatman comes up in the rankings, like that he may bleed into the A tier, but that's something that I think we had to test.
Okay, yeah. No, I think you're right, because
time.
I'm looking at some of these A tiers, and I think Heatman brings me more joy, but we will definitely get there.
Oh, that's very interesting because I feel like we've got a strong A tier. Like
Well,
the A
okay,
tier.
I'll tell you right now, the one that I think that I maybe like a little less than Heatman is Sparkman. I think Sparkman
Yes.
is really cool.
Yes.
But that's the one I would put below Heatman.
That's as you were saying that there was like someone there that might go. I was like, yeah, maybe Sparkman, but the rest. Okay, look. So that's what we're doing. Heatman above Sparkman, but in the A tier, that means that we are left with Iceman, Cutman, Bubbleman, Topman, Airman, Woodman, Magnet Man, and Needleman, and I have no regrets about that.
Yeah, this is a really, really strong A tier. I can tell you my preference for a top 4, so I guess I can also tell you my
Ooh.
preference for a bottom 4.
Yeah.
So, okay, for the bottom 4, and I really like all of the designs. I think they're very strong. But my bottom 4 would be Airman, Woodman, Magnet Man, and Needleman. Not necessarily in that order, but those are the 4. And then that would leave Topman, Iceman, Cutman, and Bubbleman as my top 4.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time disagreeing with you. I think that is spot on analysis. So we're just gonna slide these guys out, but let's figure out an internal order for Airman, Woodman, Magnet Man, Needleman. Can I say I think Airman's at the top?
Yes, and I would almost do like Airman at the top, Woodman below that, Needleman below Woodman, and I would put Magnet Man at the bottom, but I have to admit I am a little biased against the color scheme. We just see it so often that I'm immediate, because it's, again, like the brown, the orange, the yellow. I'm immediately drawn to the characters that are not in that color scheme.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the more I look at it, the more I wonder if Needleman for me is better than Heatman. Baby in a
Better
Fire
than...
Stroller may actually beat Needleman for me. I'm looking at Needleman. He's evocative of Airman, and I think that's what I'm responding to most. Is just the Airman design is so solid, but then they just like put spikes on his head. I don't know that I understand conceptually what's happening with Needleman, and it's a less
Mm-hmm.
compelling story to me than Heatman.
Okay. Yeah, I am okay with that.
Okay, so we're taking Needleman out and putting him below Heatman. Just a quick gut check: is Needleman better or worse than Sparkman?
I might put Sparkman above him if we're
Okay,
going there.
yeah, okay. Needleman better or worse than Fireman?
Our Holy Warrior, I think I like Fireman better. What about
Uh,
you?
yeah, I think that's right. Okay, Needleman better or worse than Electman?
I'll say better. I'll say that this feels like a good place to me between Fireman and Electman.
Man, he's fallen so far. And there's a split second there where I was like, I don't know, maybe Electman in his like Spider-Man villain simplicity is just. But
That
anyway, yeah, I think that's
I
good.
mean that is true. Where Electman tells a really clear story, which is one thing we don't really care for about Needleman.
Right, but hard to say no to that insane blue triangle body type.
Well, I mean, we both have a type.
Okay, so then for me, I just put Magnet Man below Woodman.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
I'm just so fascinated what Woodman's deal is. Is he wood that has been fashioned into a robot? Is he a
mm,
robot made to look like wood?
is he some
Um
sort of sentient tree?
yeah,
We don't know.
I just want to know.
Maybe he's an Ent. He's a Tolkien character. Okay, so that means that we still have yet to order our top four. And again, just to review, we've got Top Man, Iceman, Cut Man, and Bubble Man. Um, Mark, I think Bubble Man is the bottom of these four for me.
I
I
think
love him. I want to protect him, but I think, he's stuck in the water.
he's
You know what I
stuck.
mean?
Yeah, it is a little bit the Aquaman problem for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Um yeah, so okay, I like that. I do like he kind of it he breeds both as like fish and fowl to me. I don't know. There's something I really like. The design is just really good, but I don't
Yeah.
disagree with his placement. Top four is a very strong showing for Bubble Man.
And just to confirm, let's we do this from time to time. Let's keep ourselves honest. Bubble Man better or worse than Airman?
I think better. I do think
I
better.
think better as well. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So our top three: Cutman, Iceman, Top Man. I
I
think.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I want to say Iceman number three, and then I go Top Man two, Cutman one.
So I agree that Cutman is number one. I would almost switch Top Man and Iceman. I would
Whoa.
maybe put Top Man as number three and Iceman as number two. But really, I could see an argument for either of them. One thing we talked about a little bit in the beginning, but one thing I like about Iceman a lot is it does, especially in the anime illustration, looks like a kid. It
Yeah.
looks like a small child, and
Yes.
that is there's something that's very funny about that to me.
Yeah, like it is so true that like the Mega Man 1 villains that work because they're funny, right? Like Cutman and Iceman are they're comedic gold. They're perfect in their designs to be just silly enough to like really sell the joke. They are on game and it's so clear. I think they're perfect.
Top Man also just seems like he would be so, or sorry, not Top Man, Cut Man. Cut Man seems like he would be so quippy. He just seems
Yeah.
like the
Mhm.
perfect like foil for bad scissor puns.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay. I think we know what we're doing. I think Top Man is number three. I think Iceman is number two. And Cut Man coming in as our favorite of the Robot Masters in Mega Man's 1 through 3. Mark, let's review this list from the bottom. Coming in at number 22, Hard Man.
At number 21, Bomb Man.
At number 20, Crash Man.
At number 19, Quick Man.
Number 18, Gemini Man.
Number 17, Shadow Man.
Number 16, Snake Man.
Number 15 is Guts Man.
Number 14, Flash Man.
Number 13, Metal Man.
Number 12, Elec Man.
Number 11, Needle Man.
Now we're in the top 10. At number 10, Fireman.
At number 9, Spark Man.
Number 8, Heat Man.
At number 7, I'm sure hope we did this counting right, Magnet
Me too.
Man.
Number 6, Woodman.
At number 5, Airman.
Number 4, Bubble Man.
Oh, what a relief. Number 3, Top Man.
Number 2, Iceman.
And at number 1, Cut Man from Mega Man 1.
Mark, I think we did it. I think that's a definitive ranking of all 22 Robot Masters from Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3. Let's close this out. I'd love to hear other people's takes on the Robot Masters from the first 3 Mega Man games. I think this is the only set of Robot Masters that I know well enough to do a ranking like this, but we could always revisit this to do 4, 5, 6. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, write into us. Let us know if you agree or disagree. You can email us Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get podcasts of whatever kind. If you like this episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or any place that lets you share things. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nincart Society. Get in our Discord. Message us in some way, and we'll send you an invite. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.